Hello, and welcome. We're here today thanks to ProTax Accountant, the well-known UK firm. They've helped arrange this discussion.
That's right.
And we're diving into something that probably makes a few people feel a bit anxious. What you actually do if you realize you've underpaid tax in previous years here in the UK.
Yeah, look, finding out you might owe HMRC money, it's unsettling, no doubt about it. But honestly, it's a situation many people find themselves in.
It happens more than you think.
Absolutely. And underpaid tax just means, the tax you paid didn't quite cover what you legally owed for that year. It could be through your job's payee system, maybe self-assessment if you're self-employed, or other income sources.
Okay, so it's not just one thing. What kind of reasons crop up? I mean, why does this happen? Is it always just like a mistake someone made?
Not always, no. Sometimes it's quite straightforward, sometimes less so. A really common one, believe it or not, is just having the wrong tax code.
Really? How does that work?
Well, say you start a new job, right?
Mm.
You might get put on an emergency tax code for a bit. If that doesn't get updated quickly to the right code, you could easily end up paying too little tax each month.
Oh, I see.
Another thing that often catches people out is having more than one job or income source.
Like a side hustle.
Exactly. So your personal allowance, that's the amount you can earn tax-free. Currently, £12,570 for 2024-25. Well, it might get applied fully to both your main job and your side income.
Which sounds good initially.
Right. But your total income is actually over that £12,570 threshold, meaning overall, you haven't paid enough tax because the allowance was used twice, effectively.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about how that tax-free bit is shared out.
Yeah.
What about income that isn't taxed before you get it?
Yeah, that's another key area. If you're, say, renting out a property, that rental income doesn't usually have tax deducted automatically like a salary does.
So you have to declare it.
You do. It's your responsibility. Same for freelance work, other untaxed earnings, even increasingly, things like crypto gains. You need to let HMRC know.
And it's not always the taxpayer's fault, you mentioned.
Sometimes, no. HMRC deals with a massive amount of data from employers, banks, other departments. Occasionally, processing errors can occur on their side, leading to an underpayment notice. And of course, if you do self-assessment, simple mistakes in adding things up or claiming expenses can lead to owing more.
Okay, so quite a few potential traps there.
Huh.
How would someone typically find out? Does HMRC just send a bill?
Often, yes, HMRC will be the ones to flag it. They send out letters usually after the tax year ends, maybe between June and March. You might get a P800 tax calculation or something called a simple assessment letter.
P800.
Yeah, it basically sets out what HMRC thinks your income was, how much tax you paid, and if there's a difference in underpayment or sometimes an overpayment. It could be triggered by, say, a taxable benefit from work, like private health insurance, that wasn't quite taxed right through your pay.
But you don't have to just wait for a letter.
No, definitely not. You can be proactive. The best place to look is your online personal tax account on the gov.uk website.
Right, I've used that.
It gives you a really good breakdown, income details, tax codes used. It's smart to check that against your P60, which you get from your employer at year end, or your P45 if you left a job, and also your P11D if you get benefits in kind.
So comparing those documents is key. And if you do spot something or you just realize you forgot to declare some income, what then? What's the actual process?
Okay, the main thing is deal with it. Don't bury your head in the sand. HMRC actually wants people to come forward voluntarily.
Right.
So first step is gather your records for the years in question. HMRC usually looks back up to 4 years, maybe more if they suspect deliberate behavior. So payslips, P60s, bank statements showing that income, invoices, anything relevant.
Okay, get the paperwork together.
Then HMRC has an online system called the Digital Disclosure Service, or DDS. It's on gov.uk. You'll need a government gateway ID to log in your secure access for government services.
The DDS.
Before you dive in, it helps to have a rough idea of the tax you might owe. HMRC actually has online calculators you can use to estimate the tax, and also any interest and penalties from past years. It gives you a ballpark figure.
And thinking about tax rates helps there, I suppose. It's still 20% basic, 40% higher, 45% additional rate currently.
That's right. For 2024-25, basic rate is 20% on income from £12,571 up to £50,270. Then it jumps to 40% up to £125,140 and 45% above that Knowing where your income falls helps estimate the tax owed. And just to put it in context, HMRC figures suggest around 15%. That's quite a lot of pay white taxpayers, either underpay or overpay each year.
Oh, 15%.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're definitely not alone if this happens. So this digital disclosure service, the DDS, that's the main route for telling them.
For most sort of standard cases of undeclared income or gains, yes, it's the main online way to make what they call a voluntary disclosure. You log in, provide details what the income was, which tax years, what kind of tax, income tax, capital gains, etc. It guides you through estimating the amount. Once you submit, HMRC reviews it and sends you a payment reference. You generally get 90 days to pay from when they acknowledge it.
90 days. Okay. Are there times when you wouldn't use the DDS?
Yeah, it's not for everything. If it's more complex, like maybe serious VAT errors or issues involving offshore income, you might need a different route, perhaps writing to HMRC or calling their specific voluntary disclosure helplines. The DDS is more for the common, straightforward, domestic, undeclared income scenarios.
Got it. You mentioned interest and penalties earlier. What's the damage there usually?
Well, interest is pretty much automatic. It's charged on the tax owed from the date it should have been paid until you actually pay it. The rate right now, as we speak, is 7.5% per year.
Ouch. Okay.
And then there are penalties. Now, these depend heavily on why the tax was underpaid and crucially whether you tell HMRC first or if they find it.
So coming forward makes a difference.
A big difference, usually. If you make an unprompted voluntary disclosure, basically, you tell them before you think they're onto you, the penalties are often significantly lower. Sometimes, if you can show you took reasonable care but still made an honest mistake, the penalty might even be reduced to zero.
But if you deliberately hid income,
Then penalties can be much higher, potentially up to 100% of the tax owed, or even more in very serious cases. So yeah, acting quickly and voluntarily is almost always the better financial strategy. It minimizes the potential hit.
right? So speed and honesty are key.
Absolutely. Going to them proactively shows you want to get things right. It demonstrates you're aiming for compliance, which HMRC generally responds well to. It avoids bigger problems later on.
This has been really helpful clearing up the process. So for anyone listening who's maybe had a dawning realization during this chat, what's the main takeaway?
I'd say the key thing is don't ignore it. Take it seriously. Act promptly. Check your personal tax account online. Look at any letters from HMRC like a P800. If you think you owe tax, use the digital disclosure service if it fits your situation.
And be prepared for interest, possibly penalties.
Yes, be mindful of those, but remember that telling HMRC voluntarily is your best bet for reducing penalties. And look, if it feels complicated or you're just not sure, don't hesitate to get professional advice.
Which brings us back to our Rangers. For that expert help, navigating the complexities, preparing disclosures, maybe even talking to HMRC for you, we really do recommend contacting ProTax Accountant.
They definitely have the experience in these matters.
You can find their details online at protaxaccountant.co.uk. That's PROTA-X-accountant.co.uk. Or just give them a call, 020-8127-0728.
And do mention you heard this discussion.
Yes, definitely mention us. You can ask for Mr. Adil or a member of the team for a no-obligation chat. Getting your tax situation sorted really does bring peace of mind, and professional help can make that process much smoother.